What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Dylan Mathews alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Beau Morgan, and we are Peachtree Football. Make sure you like this podcast, download the podcast, subscribe to Peachtree Football. We are wherever you get your podcast. That is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Audacy app, wherever you get your podcast. Guess what? Peachtree Football is there. Beau Morgan, today is actually the first day of summer. Believe it or not, Wednesday, January 21st.
You mean
day of the summer solstice, the longest day of the year.
Wait.
Yeah.
Is it January 21st?
Did I say January?
Yeah. I was like,
June.
I was like, oh my goodness, I've missed a lot.
Yeah.
How did the 23
we should be
season
talking
go?
about the Falcons hopefully in the playoffs right now if it was January 21st. My goodness. But no, it is June 21st, the first day of summer, the summer solstice, I guess, and apparently the longest day of the year. So shout out to y'all for listening on the longest day of the year. But Beau, right now, mandatory mini camps are over. The next big thing is training camp. And really, once we hit training camp, it's a full-on sprint to the regular season. So right now, really, Beau, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but right now really the time for players to, obviously they're doing their preparations, they're, getting their workouts in, take care of the body, but they kind of do that year round. So it's right now the time for them to, obviously they're spending the last bit of good quality time with their families that they can, but vacations, a little bit of winding down. Are those things that are happening right now as well? Or is it more just full on getting ready for the season?
No, I think you want to. I'm not a trainer and I'm not an NFL player, but I would like to think that this is a maintain period for these guys. You've put in the work, now you kind of maintain. There might be some guys that are putting in their final touches on what they need with their body. But
Right.
I would think for the most part, these guys are probably just maintaining. They're not trying to gain. They're definitely working out, but they're just relaxing and letting their bodies get that rest from the OTAs and all those some of those mandatory mini camps, etc. So at this point, you're just kind of on, I don't want to say cruise control, but you're just in kind of a maintain mode where you continue to lift. But hey, season is here.
Right.
Let me go spend some QT with the family because it's really important because you're pretty much in a month you're gone.
Yeah.
And and be ready, right?
Right.
I mean, you and I do work a lot more during the season, so
Yep.
we're both about to take some time, and I'll take some time next week, and I'm sure you'll have a few days here and there where you just kind of chill and do your own thing. So it's not much different. I wouldn't, in a lot of ways than that. So
Right.
you're just ready, getting ready, and continuing to get ready, and gonna keep doing some of the good habits. I think it's very important that you don't get crazy. You might have a couple of days where you kind of veg out or or release, and however you do, if you want to have a few drinks or eat a few cheat meals or whatever. But for the most part, the goal is to not get out, to stay in shape, to not get in trouble, and to enjoy the time you have left so you're refreshed when the season starts.
I've never heard anybody use the term veg out until I met you. You were the first person I've heard use the term veg out. And I obviously, I kind of know what it means now with context clues, but I guess just means relax and, kind of go, not brain dead, but, kind of just take your mind to a place where you stop thinking, whether it's scrolling through TikTok or watching a show or playing Bejeweled on your phone or something like that, or playing a game on your phone. So I get what it means. Just I never heard that term until you used it. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure I would like to think it's not become a PC term in 2023, but it's not meant as a slight on anything or anyone.
No.
But veg out is basically, for me, I come home and I sit in my recliner and I turn on it's a little bit different for me, but I've got ESPN. I've got two TVs and I've got ESPN on one and the other on mute, and I keep an eye, here and there. But the other one is just on a TV show, or and even these days, you know, I'm not trying to talk about me, but you and I have both had a lot of schedule changes over the past 6 months,
For
and
sure.
we have we do more work, but in different. We do. I don't want to say we do more work, but we do different work, which is more when you first start doing it because it's an
Correct.
adjustment.
Correct.
So I don't even watch TV shows that I haven't seen, or I won't watch a new movie unless I'm in the right
Yeah.
mindset. If I to me, it's something I can, is completely relaxed to,
Right.
and enjoy and be there's no stress, there's no, anxiety, there's nothing. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to laugh. Or, like Game of Thrones, the show I've seen, maybe three times total.
Yeah. You don't
And
gotta pay
so,
like extra hard attention to it, but
yeah,
you know what happens, and like you say, you can have a laugh and that sort of thing.
I
So
fall asleep
right.
and I wake up an episode later or 2 episodes later. I just pick up from there. No big deal.
No big deal. So players might be vegging out. They're obviously continuing to work out, and they're getting their minds right for the NFL season because, like Beau said, it is here and it is happening, and it is going down sooner rather than later. And with that, let's get into some Atlanta Falcons football, Beau, because we've been doing our series where we're breaking down every single position throughout the Atlanta Falcons roster. And today I want to focus on the linebackers because this is a bit of an interesting group. Young at its core, but we've added a lot of veterans to it as well. I think about Troy Anderson, obviously D'Angelo Malone, Arnold Ebiketie, who's kind of an outside linebacker / defensive end in that role. And then I think about the veterans we brought in. We brought in Bud Dupree. So when I think about this this linebacker group, really, Caden Ellis, I don't want to forget him either. I'm really wondering, like, I know defense is different because it's not necessarily about who starts. It's about the snaps that you get and the snap percentage. So when you first think about the linebackers, I mean, to start out and when we talk about snap percentage as well, I mean, is the majority of the workload going to be on Troy Anderson in the middle? Do you think Caden Ellis is that guy in the middle too? Because I mean, at this point, it seems like obviously we're not bringing back Rashawn Evans. So Caden Ellis and Troy Anderson in the middle, and then maybe Arnold Ebiketie, Lorenzo Carter on the outside, or does Bud Dupree, who has been impressing throughout the offseason for the Falcons, do you think he gets more of the snaps on that side of Lorenzo Carter? I mean, what are you thinking when we talk about the linebackers here?
Well, where do you want me to start? Inside or out? Because out's a totally
because
different story than inside.
I think outside is a little bit more intriguing to me because I think we know inside is going to be mainly Troy Anderson, Caden Ellis, Michael Walker is going to be sprinkled in there for sure. But I think inside we kind of know what to expect, right? And I think outside is going to be a little bit more different, like you said.
Well, honestly, I think outside is going to be multiple things. I think situational. Technically, you went through them, but I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you say Ogundeji?
I didn't mention him. No,
because Ogundeji's a guy. I think Zach
Mhm.
Harrison is a guy that technically
Good call. Yeah,
could be standing up.
absolutely.
D'Angelo Malone. Did you mention D Malone?
I did. I
thought so. I was making sure that we didn't miss anybody.
I almost forgot about Lorenzo Carter.
So I think there's a couple of guys that they want to play, that they want to have, that's not situational. I honestly think I know Ogundeji is going to be more run, and I think Zach Harrison at first could be more run. I think they want Zach Harrison to be an everything guy, but I think Zoe's an everything guy as well.
Right.
But I think when I think of Dupree and Ebiketie and D'Angelo Malone he's in the middle too. All those guys can do everything, but for me, I'm not getting overly hung up on all those names and saying who's where. These guys are going to play, based on situations and what they do to earn that playing time. So if Ebiketie comes out of the box in the preseason, looks well, and maybe he earns that nod from the past because of his pass rushing abilities, that kind of thing, then I think he might see a few more of the snaps. But then again, I think if he doesn't, you can see Bud Dupree. I think a lot of that's going to depend there. The other thing that I would probably make sure is you've went out and signed a Bud Dupree, not
Yeah.
only for veteran presence, but you're trying to build depth.
Correct.
So if you can rotate these guys and they are producing within the rotation, you want to keep them fresh.
Right.
You want to keep them going,
And let me
not
jump
only
here.
for games, but as the season wears on.
Yeah, let me jump in here real quick. So because I just want you to talk about that a little bit more. If you had a ballpark number, and it might be tough to tell right about now, but if you had a ballpark number, I mean, how often do you expect the guys to rotate? I mean, is it every couple of plays? I don't expect he's going to leave guys in there for entire drives, but I mean, what do you expect that rotation to be like?
It's honestly hard to say right now.
Yeah.
I would think that Bud Dupree might be in here at first early in the season as a pass rush specialist. But I don't know. I've seen Lorenzo Carter play a lot of snaps, and I've seen Ebiketie play a lot of snaps. So those guys might be, and even D'Angelo Malone in some ways. So those guys could be more of, they could get more snaps than a Bud Dupree, than a D'Angelo Malone. Adi Ogundeji is probably going to get a few more snaps depending on the team you play, depending on if they're a heavy pass, heavy rush. It's really hard because I think a lot of it's going to dictate how you play.
Right.
So
matchups too, like you said.
Yeah. So yeah, matchups. Well, matchups are always big. So
yeah.
I wish I could put a number on it, but I can't. I can't 100%. I guess what you could do is go look at snap count percentages for guys when they played last year, the guys that were here. And that there's ways to do that, but I'm looking right now and I'm looking at Lorenzo Carter, and looks like defensively he played 81% of the defensive snaps last year.
Out there a lot.
Arnold Ebiketie only played 45. Adi played 48. So now you've lost a guy in Rashaan Evans in the middle who played 98%.
Goodness.
But D'Angelo Malone, he upticked there late, and he ended up getting almost 20%. But those were young guys, and those were guys that were considered linebackers. And then you have, so you would like Arnold Ebiketie to play more than 45% of the snaps next year.
Sure.
I don't know if it's good or bad. It could mean that he's progressed so much as a pass rusher and that other guys have progressed in the run game that you didn't need him and that you can make him more specialized. But I based on that, I would kind of expect Lorenzo Carter to get around 80% of the snaps, and I'd kind of expect Arnold Ebiketie, I would like to see him uptick and get maybe 50, 55, and maybe D'Angelo Malone and Bud Dupree can share the rest or help Zoe out on the other side. So it's hard to say, but either Lorenzo, and this is kind of a silly thing to say, but one or two things can be said. If Lorenzo Carter's not getting around 80% of the snaps, it could mean that you didn't bring guys in to compete. You brought guys in that kind of helped him take plays off to where he didn't have to play over.
Correct.
It could mean he regressed. I'm not a big fan of that word regression, but so I would like Lorenzo Carter to play less snaps, so he's a fresher player. I'd like all those guys. I really don't want any of those guys playing that much because I think that way you can keep them fresh to go after the passer. But then again, it could mean that they have come on so strongly that
you can't help but have them in
nowhere near the team without them.
Right.
So it's hard for me to comment because it's also based on a different defense.
It's true. Very true. And Ryan Nielsen could be wanting, not something completely different, but just the way he looks at rotations and, keeping guys fresh and just things like that. He could just have a different mindset than what Dean Pease had a year ago. So it's going to be very interesting to see. But one quick question before we move on from the position breakdown of the linebackers. Do you think, and again, this is the same discussion of different defense, not sure how Ryan Nielsen is going to handle it, but do you think, because we all expect Troy Anderson to be that guy in the middle to kind of anchor this linebacker core, do you expect Troy Anderson to be kind of that replacement for Rashaan Evans? And do you expect him to kind of be at the same level Rashaan Evans was last year and get 98% of snaps? And I ask that because, that's not to say that he can't do it, but that is a lot of pressure on a second-year player.
Yeah, again, I don't know how they want to funnel this defense next year.
Right.
I know last year the way Dean set things up, it seemed to funnel everything into those middle linebackers, and that's one of the reasons that Rashaan had it. You have to know how Ryan Nielsen wants to use Caden Ellis.
Right.
Because Caden Ellis in the past has been used as a guy that was more of just do his job. And because he's doing his job and he's right where he's supposed to be, he fell into tackles and sacks. Honestly, I don't want to say he fell into sacks last year, but he did exactly what he was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, they'll tell you, hey, maintain your rush lanes. Because if you maintain your rush lanes and you're doing your job, there are times where, because of that, things are going to fall in your lap or get funneled to you, or you're funneling it to someone else. So I don't know that there is a Rashaan Evans. Same way on what Ryan Nielsen wants to do.
Right.
But I do think that if there's one guy that Ryan Nielsen was super excited about the day he took the job, it was Troy Anderson.
Right.
So he has hopes for Troy Anderson. He has a designed role. Troy Anderson, to me, if he can progress, he is a Luke Kuechly type player, or could be, has the potential. The athletic. Well, look, I'm not trying to compare him, but they're both athletic, physical, fast guys. If he can get Luke Kuechly was an elite football IQ player.
For sure.
Elite, like a Ray Lewis type player as far as elite, knowing exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there have been pieces on him where he's telling people where to go even beforehand. I mean, he knew the offense's plays before they even snapped it. So he was on that type of level. So I definitely get what you're saying. Now, Troy Anderson isn't on that level yet, but like you said, if he can get there, he has all the same athletic abilities. As long as that IQ is there, there's potential there for him to be that same type of player.
Yeah, and look, the IQ thing, that's not a knock on a person's intelligence.
Right.
I want that to be very clear. That's just saying that they know the game so well because they film study. Could be work ethic. I mean,
correct.
A lot of times football IQ comes from, playing the game so long, but being a bookworm. Ricardo Allen had immense football IQ because he was a film nerd. The guy was always in film study.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the first one there, last one to leave. And that's no joke. And that makes you a better player. So it could depend. It's not always dependent on the physical attributes. It's also the mental aspect of the game. So I think that Troy Anderson, there's a lot of people that are high on him, and that's why they took him there. And I thought he started to show it last year as he took over from Michael Walker. But again, you never know how these things are going to play out or what's going to be asked of these guys. But I would like to think that, from what I've kind of seen, I've seen on film, that this defense is one of those where, and I think every defense you could probably say this, but if you just do your job, you're gonna get a lot out of it, and especially with Ryan Nielsen, for what I've seen from Caden Ellis last year on film from New Orleans, And I'm sure, maybe that's the job Troy Anderson plays, and he uses Gaden Ellis for other things. You just don't know. And I'm not sure if the door is closed on Rashaan Evans or not. I would like to think Rashaan Evans, since he's still out there,
still a chance.
Has a chance. I'm not sure exactly what they're waiting for, unless the price coming down or that, I would expect this time if you told me if this was August 21st and not June 21st, I think there's a really extremely good chance that somewhere in the NFL, Rashaan Evans is now on a team.
Yeah, I mean, especially from what he put on tape last year. I mean, he had nothing but good tape. He was durable, reliable, sure tackler. Like, I don't see why Rashaan Evans honestly isn't a team already. And again, hopefully the Falcons can bring him in and bring him back, because I mean, whether he starts or whether he's just, again, a depth piece, I mean, that'd be great depth for the Atlanta Falcons. But you have to think, if they sign Rashaan Evans, he might be a plug and play type of player. But it's going to be very interesting to see with or without Rashaan Evans, this Falcons linebacker core, because again, like you said, this Ryan Nielsen defense still, we want to see exactly what it looks like in action. Like you talked about, is he going to funnel stuff to the middle? Is he maybe going to try to clog up the middle, funnel stuff to the outside, and let his athletes try to make plays in space? It's all yet to be seen. And, with new pieces as well, you have to take into account how he's going to, put guys in the best situations and put them in situations where he know they can succeed, like Troy Anderson, the athlete. Let him do work in space. Let Lorenzo Carter, go pin his ears back and go after the quarterback. Arnold Ebiketie, same deal. Bud Dupree, same thing. So just how he's going to put guys in positions to make plays and get the best out of them. That's going to be very interesting to see how he accomplishes that. But let's move on as we are on the back nine of this edition of Peachtree Football. I want to talk about the offense now. Talked a lot about the defense here in the beginning and in the first half of the show. I want to talk now about the offense, because Arthur Smith, at the end of mandatory minicamps, he was talking to the media, and friend of the morning shift, Josh Kendall, actually tweeted this out and said that Arthur Smith, if I don't have the exact quote in front of me, I should have brought it, but he basically said if Matt Ryan was handed a playbook, a lot would look very foreign to him, and he was here just a year and a half ago. And that just brings up the conversation of Arthur Smith and how this offense is going to continue to evolve. Arthur Smith just didn't come here with a set game plan, like we're just going to run the football, like no matter our personnel, we're just going to run. No, Arthur Smith is a guy where he is going to take advantage of the personnel that he has. Now, does Arthur Smith have an idea of what he wants to do? Of course he does. He is more of a running type of a coach when it talks about offensive game plans, and he's great at scheming up offensive run schemes. However, when you have a Drake London, when you have a Kyle Pitts, when you have a Bijan Robinson who can also play in the slot now, we have a Jonnu Smith, a Cordell Patterson, you can do other things. And Arthur Smith, with the great mind that he is offensively, he is going to play to his players' strengths. He's not designing plays just for himself and what he thinks is going to work. He's designing players what he knows is going to work and the way he's going to put players in the best position to succeed based off of their skill set. So it was just very interesting to hear, how Arthur Smith's offenses has evolved from what we saw in 2021 with Matt Ryan to what we saw last year with Marcus Mariota into what it's going to be now before. And Beau, I know you've talked about how you think the 2021 offense, 2022 offense are going to kind of be married. They're going to be mixed in a little bit. It's not going to be as run heavy as it was last year, and maybe not as pass happy as it was in 2021. It's going to be a nice mixture of both, Beau.
Yeah, look, that's what I've always thought. Is it's going to be I've thought that for a while, just because of the way they've made additions. And I think that's partly what that's some of what he means when he says Matt Ryan wouldn't really recognize the offense. The offense when Matt was here was built around what would be Kyle Pitts, and Calvin Ridley.
Right.
And then Cordero Patterson in some capacity. And that wasn't really what it ended up being, because Calvin Ridley, the issues are, what happened with him and at the end of his career here is, very documented.
Yep.
So I think we kind of know what that was. But but then last year you had Kyle Pitts, and you had Drake London, and then you went out and signed some. Was it Damian
Williams?
Yeah, Damian Williams, and you had Cordero Patterson, and Marcus Mariota was not. Look, Arthur Smith was no stranger to what Marcus Mariota was. He had coached him in Tennessee, so he knew what that was going to be. It was going to be a run first team that could live off the passing game when they needed to. And then Kyle Pitts gets hurt, and because Damian Williams is pretty much gone, you have to go with basically two rookies once Cordero goes out. So so everything kind of changed, and you worked around it. And so you became run first, and you became that read option team or zone read team or RPO team, whatever you want to call it. And that is gone now too. So now with you're in your third starting quarterback in 3 years. Yeah. And this one is more of a mixture of the first two than either one was alike the other 2 years. If I said that, if you don't understand what I mean, Matt Ryan was a pure pocket passer, and he's not going to run a lot, especially RPO stuff. Marcus Mariota was an RPO guy and wasn't a great pocket passer from accuracy and efficiency. So Desmond Ridder, I think, gives you what you would hope to be the best of both worlds. So now the offense is going to be molded into what fits him and the weapons. And the weapons are well documented as well on this podcast. We've talked about them. So I think that's where he's going. I think it's going to be the best of both worlds. I don't know. Hell, you might throw the ball 35 times in week 2 and then turn around and throw it 21 times in week 3 because that's the way that's what the matchup gave you, or that's what the game dictated to you. So that's why I love a coach like Arthur Smith, because I think he is set up to do whatever he wants. And I think this offense is set up to do whatever he wants. And whatever, let me rephrase that. I don't even want to say whatever he wants. Whatever is needed, whatever the game dictates. And so that would be to me I am a Falcons fan. That to me, as being a Falcons fan and someone that covers a team and travels with a team, it's what really makes me excited about it. And I have a lot of trust in the coach that's going to be doing all that.
Oh, I mean, most
calling all of it, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing what Arthur Smith was able to do with a roster in 2021 that took a lot of dings, and you just talked about it. Calvin Ridley going out, and having Matt Ryan basically once Calvin Ridley went down, you kind of only had Kyle Pitts receiving wise, and then with the roster he had in 2022 last season, that was real run heavy and, couldn't throw the ball all that effectively. It was okay at times, but you know what we mean. Just seeing what he was able to do with the rosters that he's had the past 2 seasons with the cap restrictions and all those things, it just shows that now with the talent that he has, it seems like the sky's the limit for Arthur Smith. And again, you talked about it. He's going to do what is needed. It doesn't matter if he likes to run the ball more, pass the ball. None of that matters. It's about what is going to put the team in the best position to win. If they have to throw the ball, like you said, 35 times, that's what's going to happen. If they got to run the rock throughout the entirety of the game because it needs to be more of a possession game, that's what they're going to do to make sure they put themselves in the best position to win the football game. So just this is the creative mind of Arthur Smith and what he's been able to pull off in the past 2 years. When you think about what he's going to be able to do now with the talent that he has, I mean, it makes any Falcons fan like you and myself excited about what the future is going to hold. So exciting times here in Atlanta, exciting times here on Peachtree football, and we can't wait to get the season started. Even the preseason. Like, I need something at this point. I just need a little something. I want to see something when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons going out there, putting on the pads and playing football. But that is going to do it for this edition of Peachtree Football. Make sure you like this podcast, download the podcast, subscribe to Peachtree Football. We are wherever you get your podcast. That is on Apple Podcasts. That is on Spotify. That is on the Audacy app. Wherever you get your podcast, Peachtree Football is there. For Beau Morgan, our producer, James Jackson, I am Dylan Mathews. Until we talk to you guys next time, peace.